This is the Last Minute Blues Podcast with Donnie, Alex, Jeremy, and Jeff Burton.
Well, welcome to another edition of the Last Minute Blues Podcast. It's presented by Blue Note Roofing, roofing, siding, and gutters, your St. Louis roofing experts. Visit BlueNoteRoofingSTL.com for a free inspection. Donnie Fandango, joined by Alex Ferrario from 101 ESPN, also handling your Blues pre- and post-game and intermission entertainment. And from The Athletic, the one and only Jeremy Rutherford. JR, what's doing?
Alex,
what's doing?
No, JR is fine. Look at this guy. I'm the suit guy on game days, and I roll in, and JR's got a collared shirt on and a jacket on.
Well, I saw JR come in, and I saw the jacket, and I didn't think about you being gussied up for the game as well. I really just had no idea that I was going to be the schmuck in the podcast. The T-shirt. Oh, yeah. But you know what? That's just always how this is going to be. I honestly, this is not even a joke. I do not own a sport coat right now, and I have one pair of black dress pants that probably fit. Probably. I'm just not a guy.
Well, you did that when you came up and did that Blues the pregame with me during postseason. You came in with a shirt and tie on. Yeah. I'm like, ooh, Donnie, I love you, buddy, but this is weird. I have not seen you in a shirt and tie, and this just doesn't mesh with me.
Dude, outside of Burton's funeral, like literally, that is the only time in which that I have had a tie on, and I know that dude would have appreciated that I tied up for that particular thing. But you guys look great. Of course, Blues and Hawks tonight, a little bit later on at Enterprise Center.
Yeah, a little bit later on.
What is it, a 7:30?
No, it's an 8:30, which really an 8:52 puck drop. So
it's like first round of the playoffs.
Yeah. No, those are like 9:30 puck drops.
Are you guys serious? It's 8:52?
Well, it's an 8:30 puck drop, but we all know how this goes when it's on national TV. It's like, 8:30, but we got to wait for the other game to end, and then we do our pregame stuff. So, yeah, I think it's like 8:50 or something like that.
Okay. Is that like the TV voice or something?
Yeah,
the TV producer.
Yeah, I was a producer on that one.
He went into another mode.
Sorry.
Before we get crazy with hockey things, I want to just ask sort of a general question to you guys. Alex, younger than you and I, JR, by
not that younger.
Enough. But I have just a kind of a radio question for you guys.
I like radio questions.
And I've been doing this for a long time. Since with a little bit of a break in between, I've been doing this radio since about 1996. And this is just such a basic question, but do you think the average person that listens to me on the radio, on the point or on the arch, think that I pick the songs that I play every day?
Oh, that's a really good question.
I saw your post.
You saw my post, okay? Yeah. My Facebook post, and I'll talk about that in a second. But do you guys think that the general masses out there, because sometimes, man, I'll be very honest, I have a hard time because I've done this for so long, and, in wanting to do it in the late 90s, I was learning about why radio stations played what they played and when they played them and all those sorts of things. I was kind of learning the X's and O's rather. But I thought, like, over time, that it became fairly obvious that,
you're not the one just playing your iPod shuffle.
Right. But then, I got an email last week from this guy that was really pissed about me playing Gorillaz Clint Eastwood again, super pissed. And I'm like, I started to get a little agitated about it, but I'm like, I don't know what people think. Do they really think that we're picking the songs?
I thought it was pretty clear when a couple times I've heard you over the years where you say, I don't really dig this tune, but here it is.
Yeah. Pretty clear. Okay, well, here's the thing with that.
When I hear him on the arch, I assume he loves Backstreet Boys and Eminem. That's all I hear him play.
Bye.
Well, the thing is that from time to time, when a song is really big or a band is really big, I might say something to the effect of, hey, I don't particularly get everything that's going on with this band right now, but they're blowing up, blah, 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 blah. Because I feel like, to me, that's much more genuine than me saying that I love every single band and every single song, which I do not. But I think the thing that really, I don't understand is that if you follow me and you know me, and if you followed or know me for any length of time, I am a music junkie. I am always posting about something different or a new band or a new song, and I just am perplexed by people thinking that I would want to choose to play even flow every single friggin' day. So I just don't, and I don't want man, it's just something I've been thinking about over the course of the last day or so, and I wanted to throw it at my boys when we started the pod.
So I don't know where the age gap would be, but I could tell you for a fact because I adjunct teach at Lindenwood and I do radio production, and some of the kids that I have in there are freshmen just getting into college, and one of the assignments I have is I have them listen to one radio station in a certain time block. I let them pick their choice, and then I have them write a description down of what they're listening to, just so they get into the rhythm of it. And I've had kids before say why did they choose this song? Mm-hmm. So I do think there are some people out there that probably hear it and are like, why was he just picking the songs that he likes the most and just sifting through the radio and picking those? So I do think that there are some people, now I think it's more younger than the older parts.
Which would make sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, the older side of things, I'm not too sure. But yeah, I've had kids that say why did they pick these songs?
I don't know. It's probably nothing that I even need to.
It's the same thing that you complained to JR about, though. JR, stop writing these articles. I want to read this. JR, I'm sick of reading this one. Write this one.
I just did. As the music side of radio is definitely in a much different place than the sports talk side and all those sorts of things. And so as I really try my damnedest, and man, I annoy Tommy the boss on a weekly basis about pushing musical envelopes, meaning playing more, playing different. If there is one thing that Tommy, I'm sure, is absolutely annoyed by with me, it's that I'm always trying to get more onto the radio, which I don't know from my age is necessarily a good thing, because it seems like everybody my age is stuck in their own same patterns of things.
Well,
you know what I'm
saying? That way. Yeah.
And so it's just kind of I don't know, man. I just kind of wanted to ask you guys.
I'm glad you brought it up, because until this conversation, I just thought that the station I listen to, the DJ just loved the song "They Ain't Like Us."
Well, a year ago, it blew my mind when I found out his last name wasn't Fandango. So
I honestly, there was an appearance once where I told a woman that, and I swore to God that she looked sad.
Yeah.
Bona fide, 100% sad. I ended up giving her a hug, and I was like, I'm so sorry, but I didn't think that everybody thought that could possibly be my real last name.
I walked past his office and I saw the name tag. I'm like, what the hell is this? Don, what? This is trash.
What next? Santa Claus? Well,
I just assumed you were related to the people that owned that app on your phone where you could check movie times. Donnie dominating the movie market, the music market.
Dude, if I could have copyrighted Fandango, I wouldn't be here. I'll tell you that right now, man. I would not be here.
It blows me away that Alex Thompson's didn't know that.
Yeah, Alex Smith over here didn't know that. That's my radio name, Ferrario. You didn't know that, did you guys? Vroom, vroom.
All right. Well, listen, guys, I got a couple of emails, and then we can kind of chop it up about our
hell yeah
about our Blues.
Emails flowing in hot these days, JR.
Yeah. They are, man. We like it a lot. LMBP at 1057thepoint.com. Email away. This one coming
who receives them.
To whom it may concern.
I will say that I do get the emails, which I guess just means that
send it to Donnie.
The next hate mail will definitely come to me. But regardless of this one from Daniel, it says, God dang it. He says, my question is, how are you guys feeling about Holloway and Kairu's slow start to the season? Geez. And is there any concern with that? Kairu, to me, has been skating well, just a matter of time before he starts scoring. Here's the thing. Okay, Daniel, I'm just going to stop it right there. I think you're a really great guy, but we're 4 games into the season. I think we just need to take a breath here. Also, too, me saying that Jordan Kairu would score 40 goals, I don't know. I don't know why I would think that isn't me snake biting that poor man for the entire freaking rest of the year. I'm not concerned about these guys. You guys might look at it a little bit different, but for me, man, we played 3 games.
Yeah, I don't know, guys. They're on the pace for 0 goals in 82 games.
They don't have to just go in the net. You can make a pass, right? Did Jordan Kairu net set up a goal to Braden Shen?
Yeah, a pretty beautiful goal set up. And I mean, the way that they play, it doesn't look like they've missed a step. Sure, they haven't scored, but I mean, does it look like they're slow or they're off chemistry or anything like that together? Because to me, it looks like they looked like last year. It's just you're trying to get it going right now, and the one thing that the Blues have are 4 lines that they can play.
Yeah, and again, 3 games into the season, tonight's 4, but also those guys are going to be heavily counted on. They're going to produce. Their numbers are going to be there at the end of the year. But Jim Montgomery did say yesterday when we were actually asking him about Logan Mayhew, sometimes the coaches take it a different direction. And he said that, hey, look, if you're not contributing to the team, you're going to be pressing. And he said, look at Kyrou and Holloway. They're pressing right now. And so, are there parts of their game where they look like they try to force it? Maybe a little bit. But, these guys, those goal scorers, it takes one game. All of a sudden they're untracked. And,
well, and let's not forget, Kyrou has been a slow starter out of the gate in the past.
And a streaky player in general.
Holloway last year started off the season a little bit slower and then really picked it up once Jim Montgomery took over. What people don't remember is, and I'm not making this like a negative towards Daniel here, but you got to remember most of these guys only play like 2 or 3 preseason games. They don't even play with the guys that they're going to be skating with in season with. So essentially the first 3 to 5 games are getting warmed up to the NHL because you're going up against elite competition on the other side compared to what you did in preseason. So, I mean, it's like in baseball with spring training, right? Or in football with preseason. It's going to take a couple of reps before you start to see them actually get into the rhythm of the season. So, no, I mean, if we're talking at the end of October that these guys still are without a goal, then we can start asking questions of what's going on, but not 3 games.
And I really do think that might have played, even if it's a small part, a part in the Blues game against the Minnesota Wild is those guys didn't play together throughout camp. And the team really, you didn't see the whole team out on the ice together. And then when they played the game against Dallas and Dallas brought the big lineup, you didn't see that group out there. And so, you have that game that they played okay against Minnesota, but the Wild jump out to the 3-0 lead and kind of, you can play differently, right? And so the Blues weren't in that game. But I think then once you get into, a couple more practices, playing together, the whole team's together, I think that's part of the reason why we saw them take a step.
Well, and 2 more nuggets before we move on. Minnesota, to go back to that first game of the season, if I'm not mistaken, Minnesota played their NHL lineup the final 2 games of preseason together, and they actually went up against some pretty decent competition. And the other thing into this one also is I can't wait to see what next year looks like in preseason because you only play 3 games, I think.
4, yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if like 2 of those games are going to be all NHL and they're going to match it up with the other teams of saying like, hey, these preseason games, let's put an NHL roster out there. These preseason games, let's put a minor league roster out there. I wonder if teams try and address it that way in preseason next year.
It's a fine balance though, right? Because I mean, you want to get the boys together, you want to get that continuity going, but also at the same time, you're about to play 84 games or 82 games over the course of 9 months. So it's that forever balance of not wanting to put them in a position to get in. You know what I'm saying? So it's really, it will be very interesting to see if it's tackled a little bit differently with only 3 or 4 preseason games.
I kind of think that they're going to address it that way to where they converse with the other teams that are on their preseason schedule and say like, hey, how do you want to handle this one? Should we throw an NHL roster out there? You're traveling. Do you want to do AHL? Like, I wonder if teams are going to try and measure that out a little bit more so that you actually get the reps that you want in preseason rather than wasting 3 of the 4 preseason games going up against an AHL roster, or you don't send any guys that are out there. Like, you want that chemistry to hit pretty quickly.
Absolutely. Next email coming in from Spencer says, hey, Donnie, Alex, and Jeremy, Blues fan in Oklahoma, writing in. The wife and I are taking a little fall break trip to see the city and come up for Teachers Night against the Stars, their first time at Enterprise Center. This is my wife's first time in St. Louis. What are the must-sees that I should take her to do in the city on a teacher's budget? First of all, I would like to say to both of you for being teachers,
yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Salute.
God bless both of you.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
So before we get to into the hockey part of Spencer's email, must do's for a St. Louis weekend trip on a teacher's budget. I have a couple things that I thought about. One, I think the Hill for some Italian food. If not the Hill, I mean barbecue. I mean, wherever, find a good St. Louis spot to hit. But I would say, since you'll be kind of maybe closer, the Hill is a really great spot to go. Also, too, if you guys have never been here, and I know this might be kind of hokey to St. Louisans, but it had been probably 20 years since I had went on a field trip to the Arch, and then I had later on taken my kiddos there. what a really amazing,
Really souped up now, right?
And
Yeah.
right, they've completely redone the museum underneath the arch. Going up, and it is so neat. The arch grounds are beautiful. Also, too, they still have the Tom Sawyer and the Becky Thatcher, I believe, running on the Mississippi.
Oh, do they really?
So you can take that, sort of like a little cruise and see the Mississippi. I don't believe that it's super expensive, and it's just a really rad, kind of way to do the city. So that's that.
I think the last time I did the Arch and the Becky Thatcher, Tom Sawyer thing was like third grade. I don't think I've been up there since third grade.
It's been a long time, man, but I took
6 years ago.
Yeah, I took the kids there on a spring break, man, and I was friggin' father of the year. We had a blast, man. We had a blast.
I always say the zoo. I mean, I know it's cliche, but now if you're coming in the fall, oh man, that's fun to do at the at Halloween time.
Yeah,
it's
such a great Halloween stuff.
Anytime you get to the fall season is the best part for me around St. Louis.
But yeah, I think they're right. Like when they're driving around town listening to Even Flow 10 times.
Yeah.
They can, hit the zoo, hit the hill. Those are some good spots. Hit the arch. And, I know the things that we mention here are, pretty customary. Everybody thinks
for
St.
sure.
Louis, you think of the zoo or you think of the arch, but same thing. Like I haven't been down to the arch in a long time. I don't think my 12-year-old's been to the arch. So it's some things that you take for granted. You don't get down there.
And also, too, not to interrupt, but I mean, Forest Park.
Oh, like
if you're going to do the zoo,
Grant's Farm,
dude, the art museum is wonderful. The history museum is wonderful. So there's really a lot to
Here's
do.
the thing. If you're coming though, well, like Donnie and JR mentioned, get good food while you're here. Like that's the number one thing I say. It's like if you're getting lunch, go to the hill. If you're getting dinner, go somewhere around the area. They got tons of different options for you, but you got to get yourself good food if you're here.
I mean,
and then go to Ted Drew's. I mean, come on.
I was at Ted Drew's not very long ago, and I got a hot fudge sundae, and they did not put chocolate on it.
And you took it back, obviously.
Absolutely. And then when I was explaining to the person why I was unhappy, they seemed a little confused, and I thought that the hot fudge was a, important part of the hot
was
fudge
a given.
Anyway, all right. So back to Spencer's hockey questions here. For hockey-related question or two, first, how great are Curbs and Joey on TV? I really like what I saw of Hunter Skinner in camp. He's Broberg's age, got experience, looked better than Lindstein and Jiricek. I don't see why he's not getting NHL ice time. Falk's penalty, 36 seconds into the home opener, and Mayhew's rough first season game, maybe feeding more into this belief. Really hope the boys turn it around and whoop the Hawks so that my wife and I will get a good game next Saturday. Thanks for all the great time. I love the non-hockey talk. Don't listen to the other guys. Let's go Blues. That is from Spencer.
Hey, at least on the drive here from Oklahoma, you might be able to, they play a couple more games, so you might be able to calm down a little bit.
He'll be feeling a little bit better about some of those guys.
Who've had a tough game.
I'm trying to go through all these. So the Jiricek one, I mean, if you think Mayhew looks rough, for those that think he looks rough right now, Jiricek would look rough too. I mean, raw. What is he, 18 years old? So I think they're in a good spot with those guys. 3 games in. Let's do this. Let's take a break. Let's come back, and then let's get into some things that we're seeing that we're not seeing, because this, I think, it could be a nice continuation of more of the Last Minute Blues podcast coming next. All right, so I love Blues fans because we care so much, but sometimes we are a disjointed bunch. We are a not realistic bunch, and we've talked about it already. 3 games in, playing game number 4 against Chicago tonight, but I know that you especially, Alex, have heard a decent amount of kickback on Logan Mayhew already, and that to me, it's not surprising because as sports fans, we're knee-jerk reaction people. I mean, I'm listening to Buffalo Bills podcasts and thinking that the world is coming to an end. So, I understand. But, Logan Mayhew's a kid. I can't believe we're even talking about this 3 games into the year for real. Well, I can because of one guy, and it's Zach Bolduc. I mean, unfortunately, that's where we are, to where when you see a trade happen, the first thing you're going to do is, but what's the guy doing that you traded away? And in the past, Doug Armstrong has traded pieces that you look at and you're like, okay, well, that guy's not going to amount to much. This was a trade that you looked at and you're like, man, I don't know what the Blues are doing right now. And I think some of the reason people are frustrated with the Logan Mayhew is all of these articles coming out. I mean, everything coming out of Canada on Sportsnet saying I can't believe that Zach Bolduc was available via trade. To get, you got to give. And when you look at the Blues, this was my biggest frustration when it's looking at Logan Mailloux. It's like, what else were you going to trade to get that right-handed defenseman? Because I know people wanted to keep Bolduc, and I get it. Bolduc's a really good player. But go through the other wingers that you have. Who are you going to trade to go get that right-handed defenseman? Neighbors? I think you need guys like Neighbors on this team. Snuggerud? Absolutely not. Now you've got the Kyrous and the Vucneviches who have no trade clauses. And then you go into the minor league system, who they just invested in, and it's an unknown commodity, which is not what Montreal wanted. So you needed a right-handed defenseman. And for Mailloux, it's 3 games, but like watching him play, it hasn't been alarm bells going off of like, oh man, this guy doesn't look like he gets it. There's been a couple of plays that you're like, man, what happened here? Like in the Minnesota game, to where he and Tyler Tucker both go aggressive for a puck and Minnesota just sneaks a guy in front of the net. All right, that's a young guy's mistake that he's figuring out. It's just way too early to look at Logan Mailloux, regardless if Zach Bolduc puts up 10 goals in the first 10 games of the season. It's too early to look at Logan Mailloux and say, well, why'd they trade Bolduc for this guy? Because I think Jim Montgomery said this a couple of weeks ago. Goalies take the longest to develop. Defensemen take the next longest. Forwards are the quickest. Doug Armstrong said, and Al McInnes is the one that talks about this, 200 games is where you got to get to before you figure out what your defenseman is. And they're not using Mailloux any differently than other teams use young defensemen. Like Broberg in his first season with Edmonton, he wasn't playing more than 13, 14 minutes in his first couple of games. This is the slow play. It's letting him figure out even strength, figure out who you're playing with, build some chemistry, work the kinks out with a new team, and then you're off and running. I have no concerns over Logan Mailloux.
Yeah, I think you have to look at it one of two ways. You're either looking at it at the here and now, and the here and now is the Blues, say that nobody claimed the third line right wing spot, although Matthew Joseph is playing pretty well right now, but nobody claimed that, so there's a hole there. And when you picture Zach Bolduc in that spot, you picture, he scored 2 or 3 goals for the Blues at this point,
right.
And that line looks pretty good with Neighbors and Suter. And then maybe you got a Matthew Kessel playing that third pair on the right side where Logan Mailloux's now. Those are the people who are thinking in the here and now. The Blues, on the other hand, like Alex said, are thinking big picture. We want a guy here who's going to be long-term, who we can groom, who can be that right shot, right side defenseman, whether he's a top 4 guy or eventually takes over for Colton Parayko. That's what they're looking at. And so I can understand how and why fans are looking at it the way they are. The team wants to be competitive right now, and you're missing a piece in Zach Bolduc who could be helping you right now. But that's just not how they're looking at it, and that's not even to get into the forward versus defenseman comparison. It's just going to take time for a defenseman. He can't show what Zach Bolduc can show playing in the top 6 with the Montreal Canadiens. So, all we can say is it's going to take time. But in saying that, it does not guarantee that the trade is going to work out for the Blues. You can pull this clip up right now in 3 years and say, Jeremy, you said it was going to take time. It never worked out. That's possible. That's what a trade is.
Yeah, it's what a prospect is too, right? Like it's what a young player is. You see him play in the AHL. You don't know what it looks like in the NHL.
I mean, there is a real possibility that we're not going to know. Well, this is I'm sorry. This is dumbass.
There are no dumb questions here.
No, we're not going to know if this is a good trade for another couple years because of how long, as you were saying, it takes a defenseman to develop. You're probably going to see Bolduc do sexier things and have sexier numbers. But as long as we're seeing growth from Mailloux throughout the season, that's what matters. And there's going to be lots, for real, there's going to be lots of bumps for this kid. 19, 20 years old, playing in his 12th, 13th NHL games. Like, guys, listen, I am a diehard Blues fan, but for the love of Pete, I think we need to be somewhat realistic on giving this kid a chance to friggin' grow.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be in the press box at some point this season as a healthy scratch. I would imagine it's going to happen. But that's not a bad thing. Like Thomas did that when he was with the team. Like sometimes it works to sit up top and see what's happening.
Bolduc did it.
Yeah. And that was the other thing too. Guys, Bolduc looks this good because he has just gone through the system of the Blues and them working with him and growing him to what they want him to be. And now he's flourishing. They're doing the same thing with Logan Mailloux. And it just is going to take some time. Like for me, and this is way too outlandish of a scenario. So don't expect if the Blues were to win the Stanley Cup this year, projecting forward, let's say they win the Cup, Bolduc scores 40 goals, but the Blues win the Cup and Logan Mailloux plays in 75 games and has an impact at some point throughout that postseason run. Is it looked at as a lost trade because the other guy scored 40 goals? Or do you look at this as, hey, you just opened up a competitive window and you found another piece that complements it? Like that, that's to me where the Blues made this move. They needed depth on the right side of their defense. They needed young pieces that they were saying, hey, we need something that's coming up through the system that we can look forward to. We've got a ton of wingers. We got to go out there and fill the void on one spot. And I've seen people say, well, why not just go trade for a guy? Or I'm sorry, why not sign a guy free agency? Because you are paying over the price that you probably should be for somebody like that. Whereas you got this guy on an entry-level contract, and he's 22 years old that you're growing with.
Yeah, and my only question is this, and he mentioned, the emailer earlier mentioned Juracek. They want to see him get healthy and play a full season, right? But he is healthy now, and he is playing, and he looks pretty good. And Corey Pronman, one of our prospect gurus at The Athletic, he said he looks NHL ready. We saw in camp some of the qualities that this guy has.
Yeah.
So let's hypothetically say that Juracek is ready to play in the NHL next year. Are they moving Justin Falk out? And even if they play out the last 2 years of Justin Falk's contract, are they going to have Mailloux and Juracek in the lineup together on the right side? So I know they went out to get Mailloux because they wanted that young right shot guy to kind of bring in and develop. They have it in Juracek. Are these two going to come up, playing in that second, third pair for the Blues? Maybe it's not like they're surprised by Juracek's success. They drafted him in the first round. But like, what's the play here? Losing Bolduc, bringing in a Mailloux when you have Juracek.
Yeah. Well, and I would imagine when you make that trade for Mailloux, you're expecting like 2 years before Juracek gets on the scene.
Right.
And if he impresses, then that's great. But if you're the Blues, you slow play it still, wouldn't you? To where it's like, let's wait until Falk is gone. And then you've got Mailloux, who's got, 2 years under his belt as an NHL defenseman. And even if Juracek's playing in the minor leagues next year, by the time he's ready to play at the NHL, now you've got 3-year seasoned Logan Mailloux with a Colton Parayko and an Adam Juracek. Yep. And maybe you need some of that depth still. Like, that's just the part that it's an unknown. The other thought into all this, one of these guys might not be here still. Like, they always make those trades to get better in another area. So for the now, I understand it because you're seeing Bolduc score. But for the bigger picture, man, if you were to say Kessel on that third pair defenseman or Logan Mailloux, I think I would rather see a Mailloux with the upside. Not anything degrading against Kessel. It's just I've seen what Kessel is, and I think there's a higher ceiling for a guy like Logan Mailloux.
Right.
Absolutely. More with the Last Minute Blues podcast in just a couple of seconds. Stand by. We're back for the last segment on the Last Minute Blues podcast. I also just said the word standby as we were going to break for the first time. I've never done that before.
Hey, you've remembered the break. That's all that matters, Tom.
Right, absolutely. Thank God. So, guys, like we've talked about a bit already here and there, you don't want to look too far into the 3 games. You don't want to take things you don't want to put too much into it. But guys, I just kind of in general want to know some things that you have each seen from the Blues so far that you have liked.
I like Jake Neighbors. I think that, listen, when you tell Jake Neighbors you're going to start the year on the third line, guess what he says? Yep, no problem.
All right, cool.
And he goes and he's the best player on the third line. And then you, in game, need to bump somebody up to the first line. Who do you do? Jake Neighbors. And what does he do? Score a couple goals. And Alex, you've probably felt this too going in the locker room. A lot of times you go into the locker room and you ask specific questions about, hey, where was the net front? Like, you guys know that that's important. And you'll get some canned answers over the years. I'm not just talking about this locker room. But with Jake Neighbors, you really sense that when he tells you, yes, we need to do it, and when it's your turn, you go do it. And when it's my turn, I'm going to go do it. And then he gets on a plane, flies to Calgary. I turn my TV on and I watch him do it.
Yeah,
like, that's what he does. He does what he says he's going to do. So to go through, I like what he's done. I like in the Calgary and the Vancouver game, the Blues played with purpose after that dud against the Wild. And I think guys are starting to come together like we touched on earlier. Individually, Matthew Joseph, I felt like he was noticeable on that Western Canadian trip. And now listen, people are going to say that he's had this great camp and he's played great and he's earned it. Jim Montgomery said nobody grabbed the position. Yep. So I think sometimes people are making it like Matthew Joseph had this amazing camp. which he wasn't bad, but Jim Montgomery would have said, yeah, Joseph has grabbed this position. He didn't do that. But I think he's played well in these couple games. And then you can't have this conversation without talking about Joel Hofer. I mean, they don't win the game without him. And I think there's going to be, I don't think it's taking Jordan Bennington's job whatsoever. But I think, as Jim Montgomery said the other day, he's going to start more games because of the schedule, because of the Olympics. And if Joel Hofer, he's not going to play like that every night, but if he can take that next step this year in his progression, which everybody expect him to do, he is really going to solidify himself as the future goalie of this team. And how many starts is he going to grab from Bennington? Yeah, I mean, that to me is, you've got one of the best, if not the best, goalie tandem in the National Hockey League. And Hofer showed that in Calgary. Bennington showed it in Vancouver. You've got a 1-2 punch that you could play at any time, which you feel good about. Going back to your Joseph comment, to your point, if Sundqvist's injury doesn't happen, I don't know if Joseph's in the lineup that first game. Right. Because it would have been Toropchenko, Sundqvist, and Walker, and Bukestad would have been on that third line wing. So, that goes to show you how good it was to see Joseph take those steps in that Western Canada road trip because of how they performed. And that was the biggest thing that I've noticed so far. And again, it's 3 games, but man, when they're at even strength, they're a tough team to play because they've got 4 lines. They've talked so much about that pack mentality. The Vancouver game is the one that opened up my eyes to where it's when 4 lines were humming, Vancouver couldn't get out of their own end. It started with the Kyrou line, and then it was the Thomas line, and then it was Snuggerud with Pius Suter, and they score, and you get the Nathan Walker line. They are a effective team when it stays at even strength, and it's because you have that ability to roll 4 lines. That's the dangerous factor into them.
I want to ask a quick sidebar about Vancouver, if it's all right with you guys, and I'll be very forthright in saying that on Monday night I was watching the Blues game while listening to the Bills game, so I did not have the audio on. But real quick, a non-Blues related question, guys, what do you think is going to end up happening with Patterson in Vancouver? Because in watching that game, it did not seem to me that was a player that is the best player on there. But a lot of times when I'm watching a team, you're watching, you go, oh crap, obviously you see he's the best player on the ice. Well, there are times, man, where I'm watching Vancouver and I can't even tell dude is on the ice. Yeah. What is going on with that guy? It seems like there is an absolute world of talent, but the talent and the brain aren't working together or something. Am I wrong? Or
JT Miller stuff must have really wrecked him because the prior season, what was that, 2 years ago?
He had 100 points, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like one of the best teams because you had that 1-2 punch of Miller. Last year happens. I mean, what's going to happen with Pettersson? Nothing. You traded JT Miller if you're Vancouver.
You're riding on
because Pettersson's our number 1 center. I think the bigger question for them is what's going to happen with Quinn Hughes.
Yeah.
Because if you lose Quinn Hughes, that's your best player. And what are you going to do at that point?
Yeah, Pettersson's regressed, and they traded the wrong player, but maybe it's because there wasn't a lot of interest in Pettersson, especially with the $11 million AAV.
Yeah, well, and especially for how he was playing. So, I mean, I actually, watching that or looking at that team on paper before they played that game, it's a decent top 6. You got Pettersson, you've got Garland, you've got Besser, you've got DeBrusk. It's not a bad top 6. You got Quinn Hughes, which is good. Demko was really good in the early portion of the season. But, I mean, when your best player is not your best player, what are you going to do?
Do you think Quinn Hughes winds up in New Jersey with his brothers?
Probably at some point. That's always the St. Louis. Do we carry that storyline out a lot with hometown guys?
No. What are you talking about?
We are very.
I don't even understand. It's like we were like crazy about
we are very
Chucks and
forthright.
I don't know what you're talking about.
At some point, but I think maybe even more of a probability than New Jersey, which could happen someday, is I think at some point he'll be wanting to leave Vancouver.
Yeah.
I just don't know what they're building there, and especially when you have that anchor of a contract with Peterson and what he's not doing. So at some point, one of the league's best defensemen is going to go want to play with a better team.
Well, and also look at where both teams are projecting to go. If Vancouver doesn't figure their stuff out, they're going to start going down the other way because most of their guys aren't getting any younger. New Jersey's on the uprise. They've got the guys on forward. They got their forward set with the younger group of players. They've got some defensemen in place. And then you've got the 2 Hughes connections. So, I mean, if I'm Quinn Hughes, where would I want to go play for my career? Well, I got a shot to win a cup soon versus this one. I don't know if we're ever going to get there. Maybe our best chance to win were like 3 years ago.
Right. All right. So then, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but just has there been a thing or two here, guys, that that you've seen that you go with the Blues that you go, whoop, don't love that. Hope that does not become a trend. Has there been anything like that that sort of stuck out to you in these 3 games so far?
I don't like it, but I don't like the scrambledness that you see in the defensive end at times. And I think it was more prevalent in that Minnesota game, and it got tightened up in Calgary. Didn't see it a whole lot with Vancouver, but it does feel like they're not as concise with their decision-making in their own end. Like, I think they led 2 of the 3 games in D-zone turnovers between the 2 teams. So that's the part that, like, the intrusive thoughts I had before the season began is like, well, man, what if the defense actually isn't improving? What if they still struggle? That stuck out to me, but again, it's one of those things that it's so hard for me to judge them off of because I haven't seen these guys play consistently enough yet.
Yeah, I think the 2 wins in Western Canada kind of answered a lot of the questions or worries that you had after that Minnesota game. But to me, even in the victories, too many penalties.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
I think that's probably got to be it. You know, too many minors. You're putting your PK out there, which has been pretty good. And the 6-5 against, late in the game. How about that?
Oh, yeah, I didn't get to bring that one up. That felt nice. It's fixed, Donnie.
It's fixed.
Well, yeah.
But, maybe the Justin Falk penalty 34 seconds into the season was an omen for what was to come, because they sure have taken a lot of penalties.
God, and if you're Falk, too, it's like, God, why did it have to be me?
Right, absolutely so. Yeah, and I mean, it's just also, like, just after 3, I mean, there's not much.
Everything just feels very like, yeah, let's wait a little bit. Like the stuff you could get excited about, like the Jake Neighbors, that's very exciting. And you just want to see more of it.
Yeah.
The stuff that's concerning to you, it's like, I can't get worked up on this yet until I see things play out. Like the positives outweigh the negatives 3 games into the season, at least for me, because JR mentioned the penalty kill. I know they've given up 2 power play goals, but man, their penalty kill, those 2 power play goals, one, it was off the crossbar right in the crease for the Minnesota Wild player. And then the other one was Calgary, where it goes through the crease and goes off of Tucker skating into the back of the net. So, I mean, your penalty kill has been really good in 3 games.
All right. I want to ask this final question here, and I've been meaning to ask this for the last couple of podcasts, but it seems as though that we ran out of time, but I feel like we've got a minute or 2 that we can.
Oh, we're out of time.
Sorry.
Stop.
Got to send it to another break.
Nope. I've already done the 2 breaks. We're going to go there. Guys, can you, for us hockey fans that might not completely understand this, there has been a very big change this year when it comes to NCAA hockey, college hockey, and then also like the CHL and eligibility. Guys, can you kind of explain to me what has happened, why this is such a big deal? You've got that, I believe his name is Gavin McKenna, who could be the number 1 pick next year. He's went to Penn State. There's been some guys that probably would have went the Canadian hockey route that have instead went and are playing at an NCAA school, which I'm sure has a lot to do with NIL money and things of that nature as well. But for us, normal, regular hockey fans, whatever you want to say, can you kind of explain what's going on?
Yeah, it's just a situation where players, especially in Canada, were kind of restricted to who they could play for, and a lot of them were connected to the junior leagues, and you stick with that team, and it's just like in St. Louis where you have a Blues player, and if you don't want him on the roster, you can't send him to Springfield. You have to send him back to his junior team.
Like Justin Carbonneau.
Yeah, because Justin Carbonneau. So they're like the controlling entity there in the players' rights. And so now these rules have loosened up, and they're allowing them to go to play NCAA hockey. And that's what a lot of these players are electing to do. So it's going to be beneficial to the NCAA hockey teams. A guy who's going to be the number 1 pick, Gavin McKenna.
People are watching college hockey a lot right now.
Goes to Penn State. And then this ties in with, and I think there's a story at The Athletic today about the changing landscape of NCAA hockey, because they're going to get a lot more of these players. It coincides with the storyline of the NIL money and the money that a lot of these players are going to get. You look at McKenna, NIL, and they have the deep pockets there at Penn State with the family there, the Buffalo Bills family.
Well, not deep anymore.
The Bagulas.
Not deep anymore after they fired James Franklin, but we can get into that another day.
Yeah. Wow. But that's what it boils down to, is it's a little bit looser, and these players can go play for the NCAA teams. And then also there's going to be the ability to make that money.
And I think the competitiveness too. Like it feels like college hockey is a lot more competitive than what it's been in the past. And juniors hockey, not that that's not competitive, but I don't know, it's just development purposes of like, you feel like some of the guys are developing faster at the college level. And when they get to the NHL, they just mesh right away into where they're playing.
So so this obviously is going to have a pretty negative effect on these Canadian hockey leagues, right? Like because some of the star talent that would have went there is going to go to the NCAA instead, or am I reading that wrong?
Yeah, it definitely could, and especially if it becomes an influx of players that are leaving. Obviously, there's been some big names that have left so far, but I don't think it's like a stampede of players. But it could get to that point, and that's the thing is, you always. Take a point in time, like maybe 2 years from now, and you look back and you say, yes, that did have a dramatic impact in junior hockey. And people are writing articles now speculating what it could do. And we'll just have to see how everything unfolds.
Yeah.
Is Lindenwood a D1 now?
Yeah, they're D1.
How crazy is that?
We got D1 a couple of years ago. I know Rick Zombo was like forefronting that for the longest time before he stepped down as the head coach. But yeah, they're D1 and got that nice arena that they play in over at Centene.
Great arena. So great to be a hockey fan in St. Louis.
Oh, it's
you
everywhere.
can be a hockey fan on so many different levels. And the fact that I have not went to a game at Lindenwood, I got to change that. And also they got that rink out in Maryville for the Maryville team. And I've never been out there as well. I got to do
that. Then you need to go on a college hockey tour there, Johnny.
Kind of so.
Then on your off days, if you play here, you can go to the Hill, the Art, the Zoo,
we can just
the brewery. You can do all of this stuff.
We can tell you what to do. All right, so guys, we feel like we covered bases. We got everything done that we needed to do.
3 games in, and none of us are panicking. Good job, everybody.
I like it. Now some of the listeners panicking.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
We're here. Expect that.
We're kind of like the therapist for them. We're here to make life a little bit more calmer for you.
I don't think the idea of me being a therapist for anyone or anything is a good idea for anyone. Why would you
say that? Go back and reference the first 10 minutes of the show.
It is the Last Minute Blues podcast for my dudes. Alex Ferrario from 101 ESPN, Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic, Jeff Burton. We miss you so much. I'm Donnie Fandango. The podcast brought to you by Blue Note Roofing, siding, and gutters. Your St. Louis roofing experts. Visit BlueNoteRoofingSTL.com for a free inspection. Thanks for listening. And as always, let's go Blues.
The Last Minute Blues podcast. Hear more at 1057thepoint.com.